Ever get sucked into those nature documentaries? You know the ones I mean. Like lion chases gazelle, dust flying everywhere. You ever wonder if those epic chases have anything to do with Bitcoin?
Bitcoin. That's a bit of a leap, isn't it?
Maybe, maybe not. That's what we're diving into today. We're going to uncover the weird connections between the natural world and the digital landscape.
All right, I'm intrigued. This should be interesting.
Our guide for this trip is Jason Lowery.
Jason Lowery, the rocket scientist.
Astronautical engineer, actually. And get this, a U.S. Space Force officer.
Okay, now you've got my attention. What does the Space Force have to do with nature documentaries?
It's all about power. Lowery wrote this mind-bending thesis, Softwar, a novel theory on power projection and the national strategic significance of Bitcoin.
Catchy title.
Right. But seriously, it's full of these wild ideas. Like, he says there's this thing called the benefit-to-cost ratio of attack, or BCRA, that drives basically everything.
BCRA sounds like some military jargon.
It kind of is, but it applies to way more than just war. It's about survival, competition, everything. Think of it like this.
Like what?
Okay, picture that lion and gazelle again.
Okay.
The gazelle's whole deal is being fast, right?
Right, to outrun the lion.
Exactly. That speed lowers its BCRA. The lion has to work harder to catch it. But the lion, it needs a high BCRA.
It has to be strong enough and fast enough to catch the gazelle in the first place.
Boom. You got it. It's a constant cost-benefit analysis happening in the wild.
Fascinating. So where does Bitcoin fit into all of this?
We'll get there. But first, Lowery takes this BCRA thing a step further with something he calls the prosperity margin. Basically, the more resources you have and the harder you are to attack, the safer you are.
Makes sense. So a gazelle with blazing speed A&D, a herd for backup, has a pretty good prosperity margin.
Exactly. Which brings us to cooperation.
Cooperation. I thought we were talking about lions hunting gazelles.
We are, but even in the animal kingdom, cooperation is a power move. Cells forming organisms, animals hunting in packs. They're lowering their BCRA through teamwork.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. Strength in numbers.
Right. And Lowery's thesis is packed with examples of this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that billions of years ago, bacteria were already forming these huge megacities with specialized roles?
Bacteria, like those things that make us sick.
Yep, even those tiny things figured out the power of teamwork. But if you want to talk about power projection in nature, look at plants.
Plants.
Yeah.
What are my houseplants plotting world domination now?
Maybe. Seriously, though, plants are the ultimate colonizers. They've spread across the earth by mastering the art of cooperation.
So it's not just about defense, it's about expansion too.
Exactly. And here's where things get really wild. Cooperation, while lowering BCRA, also increases the potential rewards for everyone. Think about it. A lone wolf probably can't take down a moose, right?
Probably not. Too big.
But a pack, now we're talking. This dynamic is what drives evolution towards more complex, more powerful life forms.
So from tiny bacteria to entire ecosystems, it's all about power projection, just on different scales.
And that brings us to us humans. We like to think we're above all that with our technology and complex societies. Or are we?
That is the question, isn't it? And I have a feeling this is where things get really interesting.
So we've got bacteria building megacities, plants colonizing continents, all with this BCRA thing driving the show. But where do we, with our big human brains, fit into all of this?
That's the million-dollar question, right? See, Lowery says that abstract thought, while awesome, also creates this tricky confusion. We start mixing up abstract power, like social status or job titles, with real physical power.
So, like, we think a fancy title makes us powerful, but it's not the same as, say, building a house.
Exactly. One's about ideas, the other's about actually changing the physical world. Lowery uses some great examples. Imagine a pilot, right? They've got real, tangible power over this aircraft. Then picture a judge.
Okay, I'm picturing them. Both important jobs, but different, right?
Totally. The judge's power comes from the legal system. It's abstract. Both have influence, but their sources of power and what they can actually do are completely different.
And then there's that whole thing with JFK's assassination. Here you have arguably the most powerful person on the planet, President of the United States, all the abstract power that comes with it.
Right.
But it couldn't stop a bullet. It makes you think about the real power dynamics, the stuff happening behind the scenes.
It's a harsh reminder that abstract power, while important, can't always guarantee security in the physical world. And this gap between abstract and real power, it becomes even more important in the digital age.
Okay, now you're going somewhere I didn't expect. The digital age. Are we talking about the internet? Social media, cat videos, what's that got to do with power struggles?
Think about it. Programmers, the ones writing code, they're creating systems with their own rules, hierarchies. It's a form of abstract power, but it shapes how we experience the internet, how we make decisions, even what information we can access.
So it's like we're living in these digital kingdoms, each with its own rulers and laws, all written in code.
Precisely. And just like in nature, these digital kingdoms have vulnerabilities. Lowery says it brilliantly. Software vulnerabilities are like unguarded farmlands, full of valuable stuff, but easy to exploit if you know how.
Ouch, that's a good way to put it. And we rely on software for everything these days, from our phones to our banks, even to listening to this deep dive right now. Are you saying we're becoming more vulnerable?
In a way, yes. Our reliance on software could be seen as, and I know this sounds weird, self-domestication. We depend so much on these systems that we become vulnerable to whoever controls them. Tech companies, hackers, even governments.
This is blowing my mind. So is this where Bitcoin comes in? I've always thought of it as, digital money. But are you suggesting it's something bigger, like the ultimate digital defense system?
That's an interesting way to think about it. And it's definitely a line of thinking Lowery wants us to explore. He sees Bitcoin as a potential answer to the problems of abstract power in the digital world.
Okay, you've got my attention. What makes Bitcoin so different?
One word: energy. And before you say it,
Isn't Bitcoin's energy consumption a bad thing? That's what everyone says.
exactly. But Lowery flips the script. He says, what if, in Bitcoin's case, it's actually a good thing?
Okay, so you're saying Bitcoin's energy use is actually a good thing. How does that even work?
It's all about how Bitcoin secures itself. See, unlike regular money controlled by, like, governments or banks, Bitcoin uses this decentralized network of computers.
The blockchain.
Yeah, the blockchain. It's how Bitcoin transactions are verified and secured. But all those computers crunching numbers, that takes energy. A lot of it.
So the more energy Bitcoin uses, the harder it is to mess with.
Exactly. That energy consumption equals real-world security. To attack Bitcoin, you wouldn't just need some hackers in a basement. You'd need enough energy to overpower the entire network. Imagine trying to, drain an ocean with a bucket.
So Bitcoin security is physically tied to energy. You can't cheat the system with just clever code.
Exactly. And that's what Lowery calls softwar. It's a whole new way of thinking about conflict and power.
So instead of armies and missiles, we're talking about hackers and miners battling it out with algorithms and electricity.
It's a new kind of geopolitical game. Imagine countries competing for control of the infrastructure that powers the digital economy. Energy grids become strategic assets.
Whoa, that's both fascinating and kind of terrifying. So where does that leave us? What can we even do with this information?
The world's getting more complex, that's for sure. But Lowery's work isn't about freaking out. It's about waking us up. The more we understand these changes, the better we can navigate them.
So don't panic. Get informed. Ask the tough questions. Challenge your assumptions, which honestly is what the deep dive is all about, right?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. If you're as mind blown by Jason Lowery's work as we are, do yourself a favor and check out his thesis, Softwar. It's a wild ride, but trust us, it's worth the effort. Who knows, maybe it'll even change the way you see the world. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll catch you next time.